Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us episode 202. That's 202 for October 26th. What year is it? 2016. Oh, sorry, I'm confused. I did one of these today. So my head's a little...
Don't you live in Florida?
I do. Early voting. And it actually... Yeah, look at that. Hillsborough County, Florida. Yay, folks. So I struck my blow for democracy, and I encourage all American citizens to go out and vote.
I really hope you punch that nipple good.
I'll punch the Chad.
Yeah, the Chad. Yeah, I hope the dimple was made so when they recount, they can tell what your vote was.
It's interesting. Like, I mean, you go in and they scan your driver's license. And they've got all these electronic things to identify who you are and all that. And then a person hands you a manila folder with 2 pieces of paper and a ballpoint pen. Literally. And says, don't put an X, don't put a check, fill in the little ball. And I'm like, this is where we are. This is where we are. Ballpoint pens and manila folders. And then it goes into an electronic scanner. Right. Because I don't know. But enough of that. Welcome to What Drives Us. This is a very special show this week where not only do I have 2 of my favorite panelists with me, but we have special guest Ben Rich, who you may remember from Zero Motorcycle Touring. He talked to us just before he left. He has been back for a while, so he is going to summarize his ride and his experiences. Ben, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to see you again. I made it.
It is awesome to see. There's never any doubt in my mind you would make it. But I'm very glad you did. Let's introduce the other 2 people who watchers of this show have never seen before. A brand new panelist. I hear he's from Canada, and I think he has something to do with Chevrolet.
I got nothing to do with Chevrolet. But...
That's Paul Guzik. No. Our man in the Waterloo-Kitchener region, his name is Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Looking forward to some excellent talk about cross-country motorcycle riding. So let's get to her.
I agree. And, of course, our let's see, what should we call him? Our hybrid EV technician, our man in the Rockies. Don't hate him because he's in Colorado and he gets all the good discounts and all the other good stuff. His name continues to be Paul Guzik.
Hey, I'm glad to be back once again, and luckily winter has not arrived here. It was another summery day here today.
Was it?
Yep, it was almost 80.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, who needs snow in the Rockies? Oh, wait.
Yeah. The ski industry might want it. But
I'm just thinking about melting glaciers.
Yeah.
That's okay. Because it's been cold up in Pennsylvania, where we previously did this show. So, and my apologies, viewers, for the mess behind me. Yeah, I'm still moving in. So
you're cataloging all your gold records, it appears.
I got nothing. I got nothing. Should I put a different one in front each week? Would that be?
That'd be more impressive.
Would that be more impressive? Yeah, exactly. If you could see up close, you'd see that my name isn't even on any of them. So it's like, I just buy these things at flea markets. Makes me look bad, man. So let's. I'm going to turn over the mic, sort of, to Ben. Obviously, we're going to pepper you with questions, Ben. But just tell us, how did it go?
It was good. It was another great ride. And, these rides tend to be amazing and challenging every single day. And so there isn't a day that does not have some form of excitement and interesting challenge to overcome. So, overall, it was awesome. I mean, I made it to every town or city that I had planned to make it to, but getting from one place to another was not always easy. So,
and just so you know, Ben, I just put up your Twitter page. It's at Ben Swing.
Yep.
And you can interact with him there and follow him and all of that. And I'm sorry, my favorite picture of you so far.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And what was the total tally of miles this trip?
So this trip was 8,640 miles.
Wow. Oh.
And how long did that take, Ben? How many days?
So it took 21 riding days. And
Wow.
I took 50 days overall to do it because I was stopping and visiting friends and stuff. So here's the secret to this is that, you know, I'm not a wealthy millionaire. I can't just buy hotel rooms everywhere. And also I wouldn't want to because that would be a very lonely trip, right? But I have another hobby that I do is swing dancing. And I've met people from all over the country swing dancing. So what I do is I meet up with friends. And this year I met up with friends and family across the country. So I usually planned to stop somewhere for the weekend, or I stopped in Florida where my parents live for a week, and I got to see them. So, you know, that's why 21 riding days and 50 days total, you know, that's where that kind of comes from. So I get to see some really good friends along the way. And that is nice for me because I get to see these people I rarely get to see, but also I get to ride during the day. So I'm alone during the day, but it's not a lonely ride because every night I get to see a new person who I haven't seen in a long time.
Well, and can I like just a personal comment? Having been on the other side, staying in anonymous hotels and not seeing very many people that I knew on my trip, your trip's a little more legitimate, and it's more like a real thing that someone's going to do. You know, it's not just a stunt. I think that adds some legitimacy to it.
I don't have the time or money to do a stunt like that. Like, this is the huge stunt. Like, especially this year, because my goal was to go from here in New Jersey over to Seattle, Washington, down to LA, over to Florida, and then up to Maine. I didn't end up finishing all the way to Maine because I had some work things I had to get to. But, you know, even going from New York to Seattle, LA, Florida, and back up here, you know, that was just a huge, huge undertaking. And actually, so initially I was selling it to the world openly as this is a Four Corners trip. But really, behind the scenes, I didn't care if I hit the Four Corners at all. What I was really doing was trying to beat Terry Hirschner.
At least you're shy about it.
The whole reason for this trip was because he has beaten me to every significant first so far until now. And now I'm the first person to ride through all the lower 48 states.
Ah, okay.
So my goal the whole time was to ride through these 15 states, right? I had done 33 before. I needed 15 to make it to 48. And now, of course, the 15 states I needed are not like Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, you know, Washington State,
Montana,
Minnesota, Montana, Wyoming, you know, the Great West. And, you know, which is vast distances, and it is not many people living. It's pretty low density of humanity out there. Beautiful scenery, but
Yeah, it's cool.
you know, if you get a flat or something, you're going to be waiting a long time for someone to come get you.
or finding a place to plug in Wyoming is probably not that easy.
Yeah, Wyoming was interesting.
I mean,
but-
finding gasoline in Wyoming is pretty hard. So.
Well, that's one of the interesting things. I bumped into a few bikers who were going on some multi-thousand-mile trips, and they would comment to me and just say, hey, in this region, it's not really much easier finding gas. You know, you're finding electrical outlets, which actually sometimes were more frequent than gasoline stations because electrical outlets are all over. And in the West, there are tons of RV parks, and that's one of the main places where I was charging.
Mm.
Well, since you mentioned that, let's talk about RV parks, because you mentioned that before the show, and I think it's super important. Can we veer off for a second and talk about how RV parks played a part and what you think their role is?
Yeah, RV parks right now are playing a really critical role in getting people to travel long distances. And primarily, what I see is Tesla owners use it, and I use it. And not a lot of other people use them yet, but as we get more and more adapters for more and more vehicles like the Chevy Bolt that can travel greater distances, you're going to get people who don't want to stay where the large populations of people are, where there is CCS charging, CHAdeMO, and Tesla charging. You're going to want to go out into the woods. So and there already is this phenomenal network of places that have high-powered electricity. It's RV parks, it's KOAs. So I just stayed at a KOA a couple of weeks ago while I was camping for my birthday, And instead of my motorcycle, I drove my Chevy Volt. And I expected to plug in just at 110, no big deal, whatever. And the campsite owner said, absolutely not. And the reason was very valid. He had been burned by some other EV drivers who had plugged in, and I believe it was a Tesla driver, and they burned out the fuse and the pole where the electricity was. That's expensive. And if you don't leave your contact information or you don't repay the owner, then you have now burned a bridge for future electric vehicle drivers. And in this conversation with this KOA owner, I managed to talk him down. He was a little confrontational at first because he saw I was trying to plug in, and I didn't realize I would need to ask permission, so that was my fault. But so we talked about it, and once I realized he just wasn't going to let me plug in, I wanted to find out why. So I'm talking with him, and he said that he had been burned by people plugging in. He also mentioned that KOA owners specifically had been talking with corporate, and corporate refused to provide guidance. They refused to provide any kind of idea of which vehicles would be okay and which ones would not, right? Like I'm driving a Chevy Volt. I just want 110 volts and just like 8 to 12 amps. And there's no way it would have fried his equipment. Right. And in a conversation, he knows that, I know that, but because he had been burned before, he was still hesitant. Even though all logic said it would be fine, he was still hesitant. So he would feel much better if he received some guidance. So a couple of years ago, I actually wrote an article geared towards RV park owners that I never managed to publish anywhere. But the idea of it was we need to help these people understand our vehicles. Like, it's not up to them to read about our electric cars. It's up to us to communicate with them first. And so what I'm hoping is some group like Electric Auto Association, Plug in America, you know, some large group open talks with corporate like Sam Goody, KOA, you know, some large structure of RV parks, and help them develop just a simple pamphlet that will help them figure this out before they get a visitor who's in an electric car. Because they're
especially a car that's a 120 volt circuit, there's no way it's going to hurt the park. I mean, it's like drawing as much as a hairdryer, essentially. Right. So yeah, they should have nothing to worry about. Maybe a 240 circuit, if they're not wired properly, that would be a concern. But it's just, like you said, they need to be educated.
Right. And also, not all RV parks are created the same. And so, like, electric vehicle drivers also need some education, where they know that if you see some old 1950s post that has 220 volts, don't plan on drawing all from it.
With no ground wires, just two plugs.
Don't try to like max that sucker out, because it's not going to work out well for anybody. So, you know, it does go both ways, but at the same time, like, this is such a great resource, and I think it's important to proactively engage with them rather than reactively, because now let's switch to my experience with RV parks on the electric motorcycle. I've had great experiences with them, awesome experiences, so many really wonderful owners, nice people, genuine people, and I have great conversations with them all the time about the bike, about other things, and so that is one of the reasons why I really want to engage with them, so that we can develop this good relationship. So EV drivers who want to go out into the woods and enjoy nature can do so while having this great charging infrastructure that's already there. We don't have
and conveniently,
that's my
it's
story.
located. Oh, I'm sorry. Did Ben just freeze?
I think so.
Oh, no.
I missed that one.
Oh, he's back.
Sorry, Ben. I was just going to jump in and say, and conveniently, these RV parks are located in disparate places. I mean, this is like a natural resource for electric vehicle owners.
Right.
And it should be taken care of and worked with, you know?
Convenient places to spend the evening if you need a place to stay.
Or even if you just need to spend an afternoon. You know what I mean? Or a couple of hours.
Yeah.
These are, you know.
Well, and that's one of the interesting things is like a lot of times if you're on a road trip, you want to charge during the day when the site is empty, and then someone else might come in at night. So, you know, they could potentially just make a little extra money or something like that. But, you know, it varies. So here's my experience with the electric motorcycle. I would always offer $2 to $3 because to charge my bike would cost about $1 to $1.50. So I would always offer $2 to $3. 50% of RV park owners didn't let me give them any money. They just said, forget it. You know, you provided some entertainment. I learned something new. That's cool. Have a good day.
That's cool.
About 30 to 40% would take the $2 to $3, and then KOAs always took $5. Now I'm still ahead of the game when they're taking $5. That's fine, but it was just kind of funny that it was so standard because they seem to have to push a button and say, you know, this is a pool pass, so it's $5.
Right. And even though that may not be the best value per se, again, location and where, you know, like what other options may you have? It may be worth spending a little extra money investing in that relationship. You know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I always want to make sure, you know, for those of you who do drive cross country and you go to RV parks, you might see a picture of an electric motorcycle there on PlugShare. And if you do, then you can feel very confident that I developed a good relationship with that RV park.
So you didn't burn any bridges, right? There's not one park out there that you let the bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, no, I did not.
Charred embers on the ground.
That's good. I was just joking.
Oh yeah, no, it's pretty wild. I mean, I came across like this year was the first year I really came across like 2 or 3 out of maybe 70 or 80, but 2 or 3 who were a little hesitant. Or they, you know, one in a crucial spot in Washington State said, nope, we will not accept any because we've had 2 Teslas burn out our poles, our hookups. And they were just like, we can't trust that it'll happen. And I'm like, it's just a motorcycle. Wow. It's electricity. But,
it's a toaster.
But, you know, and I don't blame them. And now, I did also burn out someone's post, but this was kind of exciting.
I'm laughing.
This is between Austin, Texas, and Houston, Texas, at Columbia RV Park. I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to have good relationships. I don't want to burn bridges, et cetera, et cetera. So I went there, and they had lots of significant rains the week before, and I plugged in. Everything was humming along. And my charger makes a humming sound from the fans. And I was sitting down trying to keep cool because it was really hot. And then I hear the fans go off. And I'm like, oh, shoot, what happened? So I go back, and there's no power in the whole post. And I was just like, oh, the sinking feeling. I'm like, this is going to cost me, I don't know, like $300, $500? I don't know how much those cost. So then I went to the next post over. I could turn down my charging rate. So I turned it down a little. I charged fine on the next post, and then it was early in the morning, so the owners weren't up yet. So later in the day, I gave them a call, and I just said, look, I'm really sorry, but you know, I was charging there, and I burned out your post. I also left a Snapple bottle, so I totally littered there as well. So it's not a good day.
You're out of control, Ben.
I know. These are my Hell's Angels days.
Yeah. Yes. Posters in the post office.
I called them and I just said, I'm so sorry I burned out your post. And they said, you know what, we've had rain and we've had other problems with people burning out the post. It's not your fault. Don't worry about it.
That was nice, yeah.
You know, it was a ground.
I was ready. I'm prepared to pay for it. But I didn't have to, fortunately. So, but that's the only time I actually know that I, you know, caused any damage.
Well, that's good. And so I guess just can I ask the standard EV question? So did you run out of power at any point?
So on this trip, this is the first time I ran out of juice. But fortunately, it was as I was coasting into a RV park. So what happened? Yeah, this was kind of crazy. This was between Cleveland and Chicago. I was going up to Michigan, literally just to say that I rode through Michigan, right? So I go up to Michigan, and I find this weird thing on PlugShare where it says there are 50 outlets available. Just outdoors, like there's a board, and there's like 50 outlets lining this plywood board. And so I thought, wow, that's a lot of outlets. One of them's got to work. Well, none of them worked. Literally none of them worked. There were more outlets than I've ever seen in one place ever, and not a single one worked. So that's a problem. So then I found an RV park nearby, 6.3 miles away, and I made it 6.2 miles underpowered, and then eventually I ran out of power, and twisting the throttle did absolutely nothing. And but fortunately I was close enough to just coast in and then park, and they told me where I could charge. So I got back on my bike, and sometimes when you turn the key off and back on, it'll like give you juice again. Yeah. Not in this case. So I was like waddling around with my bike, pushing it to the post, and I got power and I charged up while a thunderstorm rained on my bike. So nice. That was crazy. But that is the first time. Every other time I've arrived with lower power, like the bike will tone down the power as you get close to zero. I've done that 5 or 6 times, but that was the first time I've ever totally run out.
Just
yeah.
First time your bike was actually at 0.
Yeah, first time it went to 0. So that was a little unnerving.
Now, like with the Tesla, you have to like jump the 12 volt once it drains completely. Any issues like that in yours? You just plug it straight in and it's all good.
Yeah, I just plugged it straight in, and it's not good to charge from that low at a high rate frequently, but once or twice fine.
Right.
And I think as I was following you through Twitter, I think you ran into a mechanical difficulty where you had to leave the bike overnight. Was that correct?
Yeah, that was kind of hectic. So moving on from Cleveland to Chicago, I went to Minneapolis. I went down to Denver, Colorado, and then I made it to Park City, Utah, which is this haven of outdoor activity and hiking and mountain biking and skiing in the winter. And there's a brand new, I shouldn't tell anyone this because it's going to fill up really fast, but there's a brand new hostel there that is inexpensive, and the owner is just wonderful, really great guy. So I got to Park City, and it's just mountains everywhere. And so I'm just in heaven. Riding through the mountains is the best. So I get on my bike, I ride around the mountains, and I have this this dinner planned at High West Whiskey. High West Whiskey is a brand new distillery in Utah. That's a unique thing. Utah is not known for having a lot of alcoholic beverages.
Right.
So, but they're great. I love High West Whiskey. So I went out there, and I was driving around, and I needed to get back. And I come up to this dirt road, and it is just, there's no pavement anywhere. It's just dirt, and it's between me and a pre-fiche dinner that I already paid for. So I was like, all right, I have to get to this dinner because it's very expensive. And so I went on the dirt road. Not a big deal. I had to go slowly, but it was fine. And then I start going up the next hill to get up to Park City because it's at a very high altitude. And as I'm passing a truck, I throttle on. My bike weighs 500 pounds plus me. I'm 170. And I throttle up all the way, and I hear this snap, whiz, and that's the belt going and the motor spinning. And so what happened then is I stopped. I tried to turn the bike around, and as I did, I dropped it. And when I dropped it downhill, I strained my leg muscle, my hamstring. But I had somehow left the keys in my top box, and it opened. And I had put some underwear into a roll of duct tape, And my underwear and his duct tape is rolling down the hill. So my belt was snapped. I hurt my leg, and my underwear is rolling down the hill. So I'm like limping down the hill after it, trying to catch it. I got it. Not sitting there. So anyway, long story short, I ended up just leaving the bike on the hill because as I tried to go down to the town, I just overheated one of my brakes, my rear brakes, and then I only had my front brakes. And I was like, well, if I overheat these, I'm going to die. So let's just stop right here.
Yeah, because no belt, you got no regen brakes, right?
Right, no belt. My rear brake went. So the next time I got on the bike, the rear brake was fine. It had just overheated. And so I just left it there because I wasn't sure where to bring it. I knew the local Zero shop was not open. So now it was in a state park on a mountain. There's not going to be a lot of, in Utah, right? So I felt pretty confident it was going to be fine.
I know there could have been a band of Mormon bandits.
Yeah.
They go out looking for electric motorcycles at night.
At night, yes.
Yeah, in a state park, exactly.
After they've gone to the whiskey factory.
Mm-hmm.
Down and still in your underwear.
I think we have a storyline here for a movie.
Definitely, at least an animated short.
Yeah. So then I ended up having to stay in Park City for an extra day longer than I had planned because it was the 4th of July weekend, so nothing was open on Monday. So finally on Tuesday, I got the bike. They brought it down to Monarch Honda, who also is a Zero dealer in Orem, Utah, and they were amazing. They took care of me. I got there right when they opened at 10 a.m., and they had me up and out by like 11 a.m. And
Nice.
I thought I'd be there till noon or something. So they took care of a new belt. They changed the brake fluid. They did a bunch of extra stuff that I didn't even ask for. They were just really top-notch place. And I was glad I got to meet them too. It was fun to meet Zero dealers who know what they're doing. So that was really cool. And then I was on my way up to Yosemite. But that was kind of a hectic day or weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. So I'm not. Did you actually get to the whiskey dinner thing? No.
I did because of Brian from Columbus.
Okay.
My man Brian. I love this guy. So he saw me when I first snapped the belt, and he helped me pick up my bike and that kind of thing. Then I went down the hill a little ways, and my rear brake stopped working, so I put it in. Then he happened to show up right away. So if you believe in fate, then it was fate that he was going to help me that day. He asked if I needed a ride. Yes. And he was going downhill, and I said, well, actually, I'm trying to go uphill to go to this dinner. So he says, oh, okay, turns right around, goes uphill. And I was like, well, are you going somewhere? Like, do you need to be somewhere? I don't want to put you out of your way. And he said, oh, no, I like to take vacations where I just, like, take a plane somewhere, and I just explore. And I don't do it with friends because they can't stand traveling that way, but I just, wherever I end up, I end up. So he didn't have a hotel planned for that night. He was just going to find one somewhere. And he drove me straight to the dinner. And I was there like 15 minutes ahead of time. And it was, I couldn't thank him enough. And so I am super appreciative of Brian from Columbus, Ohio. He just totally saved my day. And I had an amazing dinner. Like, they have this phenomenal dinner, and it was like there was whiskey paired with each course. A lot of times you have like a wine pairing. This was a whiskey pairing, and it was a terrific experience that I'm super glad that I got to have despite all these crazy adventures.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that was probably the craziest, most challenging part of the trip. But another really interesting part was when I got to San Francisco. There are some other motorcycle companies besides Zero. Got my Zero swag on. There we go. All right. So So Alta Motors is in San Francisco, and Energica is a superbike company out of Italy, and they now have a store in San Francisco. So I coordinated a test ride on both of those. The Alta Redshift is very similar to the Zero FX. They have very similar specifications. And I got a test ride on it, and the guys at Alta were great. I got to tour their factory, and they put together a really good bike. I had a blast on that thing, and we took a nice test ride, and I got a chance to meet one of the guys who works there, and so it was really terrific. And it is, I'm glad to see a very legitimate bike enter the electric bike market, you know, that can really sell and perform. So so that was fun. And then the Energica test ride was simultaneously amazing and had a little bit of challenge to it. So I'll save that for the end. But so the Energica Eva just came out, right? They have two bikes, the Ego and the Eva. The Energica Ego is their super bike. It's a sport bike. You're leaning forward, and it has all kinds of torque, and it's crazy amazing. I got to ride that a couple of years ago. The Eva is a little more toned down. It has a more comfortable riding position, and it has 75% of the power of the Ego. Same equipment, but they've just powered it down so you don't like flip yourself over or something. So we rode up to Alice's, and all the roads near San Francisco, up near Alice's restaurant, are well known as being some of the best in the country. Curvy all over the place, and my guide was this crazy Italian dude, and we were definitely going faster through traffic than I was normally comfortable going, and I don't know what the speed limits were on any of the roads, but I'm pretty sure we did not come near any of them that were in the twisties. But it was fun, and I got a great test ride with him. So on the way back, we were riding back, and I ended up running out of charge.
Nope.
And I ran the thing all the way down to zero, and it can fast charge. One of the huge benefits of the Ego and the Eva is that it has CCS fast charging built in.
Nice.
And so they call level 2 charging slow charging, right? They call regular electric vehicle car charging stations slow charging. So normally you just have to plug in half an hour, you're up to 80%, and you just keep going. And we just decided not to do that. We thought that we would have enough charge. Well, we were wrong. So I ended up running out of charge on the side of the highway. Now, I have gone to low power mode, so I know exactly what to do. It didn't freak me out, but I was like, well, this is unfortunate. I powered it off. I powered it back on, and then I got a little bit of power back. So we were literally 1.5 miles from our charging station. And so I had to recycle the battery like 6 or 7 times. And I made it under low power mode to the charging station. We got charged up. We got home a lot later than planned. It was a 6-hour test ride.
Wow.
Holy cow.
So that was crazy. But I mean, the bike itself is phenomenal. I mean, part of the 6 hours was that we went all the way from inner city San Francisco all the way to Alice's. And that was just a long ride to get there, even with lane splitting. So it was. There were a lot of really fun parts to it, but now I know how that bike behaves, you know, at low charge levels. So that was kind of. I mean, for me, that's really interesting.
And for the people out there listening, what do these super electric bikes cost? Just curious.
Those are $35,000.
Okay.
Whew. Yeah, the Energica
expensive toys.
Are expensive. Yeah, I think the cheapest Energica is 25. The Eva.
Both of them are 35.
Are they?
Or 34,000. Yeah.
Pardon me. Yeah, it's.
So they don't have like a discount on the Eva or anything. But like if I were to get one, I would probably. It's tough to say. I mean, the Eva is much more comfortable in terms of riding for long distances, but it's hard to give up that extra power.
Yeah.
It's like giving up the extra, the higher power zero. You know, after you've ridden that, you go, oh yeah, yeah, I'm not as interested in the other one anymore.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it's tough. But so that was. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and the slow zero, the slow one is damn fast. There's no,
Oh, yeah.
there's no arguing about that.
It's like a slow Tesla. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the slowest Tesla in the pack, still pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, the zero. I mean, when I test rode the Ego the first time, I remember that was the first time I ever got to test ride a Zero SR as well, because a friend of mine showed up with one, and I remember thinking, you know, the SR is slower than the Ego. Obviously, like there's a big price difference for a reason, and the components of the Ego are top notch. They're amazing. It's a beautiful bike, and the Zero is priced to sell. Like it's priced to actually move from the dealer's floor into people's garages, and they have. But the Zero SR is not much slower than an Ego. So, you know, if you're really picky and you have the money, then you're going to want an Ego or an Eva, because they're both great bikes. But you know, you're not going to need to kill yourself to do that. You know,
Right.
The Zero SR is still a pretty awesome bike.
Right. Now, Ben, we talked about this a little bit before the show, but you've driven 4 corners of the United States, basically, in this summer tour. Where did you find the best roads, and where did you find the worst roads in the country?
Well, that's a good question. There was another interview I did where they always ask bikers, you know, what's your favorite road? What's your least favorite road? And this is kind of similar. The best roads, you know, in general are newer roads, right? Like the East Coast is older than the West Coast in general, in terms of like being more densely populated before the West Coast historically. So the West Coast and the middle of the country tended to have really nice big new roads, and then it turns out that New Jersey has the worst roads, or we're vying for that title. I mean, I remember distinctly, like this is a very strong memory. Last year in 2015, riding back into New Jersey from Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania, I-80, there was this nice smooth road, and I was cruising down it, and I crossed over the Delaware Water Gap. And then all of a sudden, it felt like I was on a dirt bike going across some kind of obstacle. And I was just thinking, what is going on? And it was that different. You literally cross the border, and the roads are horrendous. So, and that was unfortunate because it was like 11 o'clock at night. I was so tired. I just wanted to get home. It was cold. I was uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden, I had to deal with potholes. I was just like, oh no. Come on. There's so many great things I love about New Jersey, but that particular one is not is not it. But yeah, no, the best roads. My favorite road of this ride is tough to decide between the Blue Ridge Parkway. I love the Blue Ridge Parkway, and the Pacific Coastal Highway. The PCH I got to ride alongside with Terry Hirschner. We went together from San Francisco to LA, and I thought it'd be interesting to, you know, have a road trip with another electric biker to see, you know, what it was like. Like, you know, people have said, oh, you ride alone, but what about groups of electric motorcycles? Can you even do that? And the answer is it's really hard. So what happened with us on that trip was we stopped by Craig Vetter's house, Craig Vetter of Streamliner fame in motorcycles. And then we went along our way to go to LA, and both of us have this new DigiNow supercharger that can get you going really fast, but it has, like, you can overheat it if it's a warm day out and you fast charge ride. If you don't let it air cool, then it's going to overheat. So Terry and I were just cruising down the Pacific Coastal Highway. We had a great day to ride. It was a good range day. We had a few adventures here and there, but his his supercharger overheated because he carries his in his top box that's closed, and I kept mine on my passenger seat where the wind was blowing by it from both sides. So my supercharger did not overheat, even though I was riding on the highway, charging up fast, riding on the highway, charging up fast. So I made it to LA in a reasonable amount of time, but he didn't make it until like 2 a.m.
Wow.
So we rode most of the way together, and then we weren't able to do it. And these are literally the two most experienced long distance electric motorcycle riders, and we had some there. So multi-100-mile trips are still very difficult.
Right.
Wow.
But although, in other good news though, there are more people who have gone on cross-country electric motorcycle trips now, which is pretty sweet. So in 2013, Terry was the first person to ride cross-country, right? He did it in November of 2012. And then I became the second person to ride cross-country on electric motorcycle in 2013 on the Ride the Future tour. And at the time, I was like, yeah, we're the first two, implying that there would be more. But no one else did it. So now that Zero has a charged tank that they sell with the bike, there are other people doing it. And there's a guy, John Flores, who retraced the first motorcycle cross-country trip ever, which was done by George Wyman. And he took his time. He had the charge tank, he had the onboard charger, and he went across the country. And so, and he journaled it, and he published the story in Road Runner magazine, which is a motorcycle magazine for long-distance travelers. Then another guy, just a guy who wasn't interested in kind of publishing his story, so I can't tell you his name, but another guy went from San Diego to New York City to Georgia. And I didn't even hear about him until he was almost in New York City. And I called him up, or I followed him on Twitter, and I was just like, hey, are you doing this? Like, are you really crossing the country? He said, yeah, I just finished and I crossed the country. So now there are 4 of us who have crossed the country on Zero electric motorcycles.
Wow. Wow.
And 2 of them did it with just the stock or optional equipment available from Zero. I did it using third-party stuff, but also, and I want to reiterate this is very important. All of my cross-country trips have been done using items you can buy off the shelf. I do use third-party equipment that were made by Hollywood Electrics or DigiNow, but anyone can buy them. I did not do any crazy engineering or stuff like that. So I just used a stock bike. I used mounting equipment you can buy, and I use charging equipment that anyone can buy. So these trips that I take are challenging, but they're not impossible, and anyone can do them if you are very adventurous and like problem
and have
solving.
the time.
Yeah, and have the time.
And have the time. So, I mean, let me kind of, obviously, you spent 21 days on the road. Well, you spent 50 days on the road, 21 days riding. We could easily spend a month going over this. But I'm also curious about what's next. Have you any plans? Have you thought of anything? Or are you still decompressing?
I'm a little bit...
Have you heard of Europe?
It's, I have done all the trips in the United States that, I want to do. Like, I've done cross country several times. I think 3 times, 2 cross country horizontally and 1 vertically, right? Mexico to Canada. I've hiked in the Alps. I would love to ride in the Alps. And at one point there was a company that rented electric motorcycles for tours out there. So that's one thing that I've kind of got my eye on. The other thing is, 48 states is nice, 50 is better. So
oh, sure.
you know, I know there's at least one zero rider in Hawaii, and what I'd like to fly down there, have a vacation, and meet him, and just borrow his bike and cruise around the island for
and then another state.
Yeah, another state. I almost did it, but I just couldn't pull it off this year. And then Alaska is another interesting challenge. So I don't know if there are any zeros in Alaska, but if they are, I'm gonna hunt one down and see if I can borrow it for a little bit, because shipping it is expensive. And
you could drive it to Alaska, drive through Canada.
Yeah.
And in the summer, you get lots of daylight, so you have 20 hours of daylight.
That would be a challenging trip.
It would. There, and actually, because I use RV parks, it's actually not as challenging as you think.
Right.
There is one section of 180 miles where there is nothing. There are no RV parks. I'm sure there's some place with electricity, but to just nip the very bottom section of Alaska would take, I think I calculated it to be like 3 days. But there's that one section where I would probably have to spend 8 hours charging on a 110 outlet.
So if you can just get back to Washington, you can always take the ferry up to Alaska and then drive through there.
Yeah.
And the car ferries are not expensive. Been there, done that.
No, it's tempting to do that ride, because there's nothing like riding an electric motorcycle through nature when you're just all alone. Because again, like with an electric motorcycle, you don't have the noise, you don't have the vibrations. It's such a pure experience, and all you hear is.
Although in Alaska, like a moose might run out in front of you because they can't hear you.
Yeah, they do it when they can hear you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm glad you brought up that point. That's something a lot of people ask about, and here's my experience with it. I don't spook the deer. So because I'm quiet, they have no reason to jump out or do anything moving. And I remember very distinctly one time passing 6 or 7 deer, and only 3 of them even looked up. And the other 3 or 4 were still noshing on the grass. And so that is one of the things where, bikers who talk about loud pipes save lives, I have very visceral experiences that are counter to that. And so it's just like, look, if you don't spook the deer, they're not going to run in front of you. There's no reason for them to. If they happen to be meandering across at night, that's a different situation. Like, anyone's going to come across that. Noise has nothing to do with that. But if you come across deer that are on the side of the road and you're not making almost any noise, then you don't bother them. Plus, you get to see their faces and not their butts.
So I'm wondering, Ben, is there any implications from your long trip for shorter trips? I mean, have we proven anything? Have you learned anything? Do you think there's some knowledge you can share that you gained doing your marathon ride for people who maybe say, you know what, I want to be able to go out for the weekend and maybe ride my electric motorcycle or go camping or to go visit people or, anything like that?
Yeah. Well, the thing that, I try to be very realistic about traveling long distances and how easy or hard it is. Okay. And so for the first 3 years that I did these long range rides, 2013, 2014, 2015, I had to wait at least an hour and a half when I charged up, and then I could keep going. And in like an 18-hour day, I could go, my maximum was like 475 miles, and I averaged 300 miles a day. Okay? Wow. So averaging 300 miles a day was like 12 or 14-hour days regularly. No one wants to do that. No, that's not comfortable. It's not really fun. Like it was work. I was doing that. I got to see beautiful views. I got to hang out with people at RV parks, but it's not something that the normal person wants to do. now with this DigiNow supercharger, it's legitimate that people can take long distance trips. Not necessarily the like a 1,000 or 2,000 miles, but if you want to go 200 or 300 miles, that's not a bad day at all. I consider now a 300-mile day to be easy because I have this fast charger. So that, like, this year I feel like was a tipping point year where we now have the equipment available from Zero and from DigiNow that you can actually take long distance road trips. And I'm seeing this on the motorcycle forums. I'm people saying, hey, I tried it out. I went on this 200-mile trip. I went on this 300-mile trip. And they're not making these huge sacrifices. Now, I'm not going to say it's easy. It's still in very early phases, and the technology is going to get better very quickly in the next few years. But it is now possible for the regular person to go on a ride that's a couple hundred miles. That's what is super exciting for me. It's available to the average person who has the money to burn.
It'll be cool when we see people like Zero start incorporating some of this stuff too. I mean, I know they have some faster charger options and some range extension options. So, as that increases, I think that'll make that vehicle purchase have more utility. Well,
yeah, they are with the charge tank. They took a good step forward. And the problem with fast charging is that the faster you charge, the more heat you generate. And when you're charging at 11 or 12 amps, you are making some heat. I'm sorry, 11 or 12 kilowatts. You are, that's like 50 amps or 40 or 50 amps. You are really making a lot of heat. And so my charger I kept out in the open air to keep it cool while I was riding. But if Zero is going to make something, they're not going to make something you have to keep in the air. They have to make it so it is enclosed. It has to go through much tougher certifications. So it's a very difficult thing for Zero to incorporate a 12 kilowatt charger into their bike, as opposed to DigiNow selling it as a third-party thing. But you're absolutely right about, if they could incorporate a 12 kilowatt charger, that would be a big game changer, especially if it was affordable, because you're talking, and then we can talk about like CCS charging in CHAdeMO. That's where real long distance riding is at. You have to have.
And then it's like 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Not with current battery technology. You would explode the battery if you did that. But if the battery could take it, yes, you could charge up fully in a few minutes. And you got to remember, on a motorcycle, you want to take a break every once in a while. You want to walk around every 100 miles or so. It's only the people who do the iron button thing, or people who just do these crazy long trips that want to stop for less time. But the average rider is going to want to stop every 100, 150 miles for like 15 minutes, stretch out your legs, get something to eat or drink, and then,
Absolutely.
if you're charged up by then.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about that. Well, even car drivers like to get out and stretch your legs once in a while. You know what I mean? Like the iron butt thing is great when you got to get somewhere. But if you don't have to get somewhere, why torture yourself?
Yes, exactly.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for coming on and spending the show with us talking about your tour. I hope whatever is next, that we'll keep in touch with you, obviously, and you'll come on and talk about it, and we'll learn some more.
Absolutely. My pleasure, and thanks for having me. I really enjoy sharing these stories and encouraging people to drive EVs, and you guys keep doing what you're doing. Love your show, and it's been a pleasure talking.
Thank you, Ben. Well, I mean, and 2 wheels, 4 wheels, it's all good. I mean,
and Ben, I have to tell you, after the last show when you were on, I was inspired, and I looked up, and there's a Zero dealer near us, and I looked up their number and I almost called a scheduling appointment for a test ride, and then I remembered I don't know how to ride a motorcycle. I don't have a license.
I was like, wait a second.
It sounded really cool.
Oh my God! If you'd ridden one, your Tesla, you would be so spoiled out of your Tesla. That's the sad part. You stay off the bike, dude. And given your track record with small motor vehicles, I want you to stay in the Tesla, okay?
That one had 4 wheels. I'm sure I'd do better with 2.
I just don't have enough panelists that I can afford to lose any.
True.
But I'm impressed. You should definitely ride one. It would blow your mind. I mean, I've ridden a lot of motorcycles, and it blew me away.
Will they let a guy with no license or experience ride one though? Probably not.
Well, it depends on how drunk you get the dealer. Oh, did I say that on the air? Shit. What I meant was no, they won't. Yeah, that's insurance and all of that. Well, we have a whole slate of news, but look, we've blown an hour. And by blown, I mean we've had Ben come on and tell amazing stories about his 8350, dude?
8640.
8640, thank you.
Wow.
8640. Oh, it makes my
Or
head swim.
13,000 kilometers.
Yeah. No. You're not doing that Canadian thing, okay?
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was lost.
Thank you. Exactly. What's this English crap?
Yeah.
No, seriously. I mean, amazing show. But before we get into everything else, I want to talk a little bit about next week's show, because next week's show is going to be amazing too. We are scheduled to have special guest, auto writer Edward Niedermeyer, who has recently written several, shall we say, contentious things about Tesla. He wrote for The Truth About Cars for a long time, and we are very excited to have him, and thanks to Chelsea Sexton for lining that up, because she knows Ed, and Ed's been a very nice guy. I've been exchanging emails with him on and off all day. So we expect to have a very interesting Tesla show for next week, and I'm just going to leave it there. If you have any interest in Tesla, tune in next week. Let's do some shout outs, Ben. First, just because, I mean, I can do them, but why don't you tell us how people can connect with you when you're not on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have a Facebook page, Ben Rich Electric Biker. That is probably the best way to follow my shenanigans. I've got an Instagram at Ben Swing. Twitter is at Ben Swing, and those are the main socials that I use. And I do want to thank Zero Motorcycles for making the amazing bike, Hollywood Electrics. They supported me through all my trips, and now DigiNow, making this incredible supercharger. So just a really great community. The electric motorcycle community is just fantastic.
Absolutely. And when Ben, I don't know if he mentioned, I'm a little like scattered because we covered so much ground, but when Ben's not riding his Zero, he's driving a Volt. So
Yeah.
All electric all the time. Summer, winter, always.
way to go, dude. Way to go. I'm going to introduce Evan Fusco just in time for him to say goodnight. And hopefully he's sharpening his claws for next week.
Yeah. This program is against my better judgment.
Not at all. No, that's it. That's it. Just a snort.
How many times am I allowed to use the word hit piece in next week's episode?
As many as you like. You can. The wonderful thing about this show. Well, no, I mean that sounds like I'm patting my own head, but I mean, we're gonna talk to the man.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And there it is, and we'll see what happens. Mr. Guzik, why don't you do some shout outs for us?
Well, just want to shout out to Colorado, where, as we've talked about before, the state rebates on used EVs are ending on December 31st. So if you live in Colorado and are planning to buy an EV, got a little over 2 months here to pull the trigger. And I'll plug my own business, Boulder Hybrids. If you have a hybrid or EV along the Front Range, we can fix your car and help you service it, and even sell you snow tires if you need snow tires for the snow that doesn't exist yet in Colorado.
I may need you, Paul. I just started getting a master warning light on my 04 Prius.
Oh,
yeah,
that's not good.
no,
That's not good. What did those boys do to your Prius?
yeah, I don't know.
Check your oil.
Yeah, I did, and that's got to have the worst dipstick I've ever seen. Because every time you put it in, pull it out, it like leaves a streak of oil. I can't tell what the oil level is. So I added oil, reset the master warning light, and it stayed off for about a day, and it's back on. So
It's code scanned. Go to like O'Reilly's or something.
yeah, I'm taking it in.
Oh no, that's not.
Don't go to the dealer.
Yeah.
Where the hell else would I go around here?
Yeah,
You're not coming to me.
Just go to like an AutoZone or O'Reilly. Most of them will scan your codes for free, and then tell me what the codes are. I'll tell you what's going on.
Okay.
There you go. That's not so
All
bad.
Man,
All right.
advice right there.
I'll try to do that.
There you go. And no, that is not an offer that is open to everyone who watches. Although I'll let you sort that out with Paul if he wants to, your
I'm
international.
pretty sure there's going to be beer involved, whatever happens.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mr. Coughlin?
Yes, just a shout out to the Waterloo Regional Volt Tech Group as well as the Waterloo Region EV Association. So just say hello to the people. Also today, luckily we were able to attend a function where the Bolt was shown again. So we just throw up a picture here or two just to let people know it's around the corner.
It's still real?
It's the real thing. They drove it in under its own power. It's ready to go. So it was that great orange color, which was looked very nice. So we had a good time at the Communitech in here in Kitchener, where GM was making a presentation, and we got to attend. So that was nice of them to let us join in.
Very cool. Did anybody drive it?
We didn't get to drive it. No. No one except for a few reporters on the West Coast have gotten to drive it yet, so we're still waiting.
And curiouser and curiouser.
Yeah.
When is the actual ship date, supposedly? Have they said?
They just keep saying before the end of the year. That's all they say.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
What about the Prius Prime? Is there any official date yet on that?
Not that I've heard.
Real soon?
Before 2017, maybe. Well, no, I mean, I think, in fact, they've said here, but they pushed it back in Japan. I'm not sure. Yeah, I haven't seen anything definitive. Have you, Evan?
Nope. No idea.
Ben? Just to confuse him. I just want to see if Ben was still paying attention.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, so let's see. So next week, big, huge show next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune in. Of course, as always, I want to thank Michael Manring for theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Visit us at whatdrives.us. You can download the show in audio or video format or stream it right from the site. Of course, always, facebook.com/whatdrivesus. You can ask us questions. You can leave us nasty comments or nice comments. We like those too. And my ego's certainly fragile enough that I enjoy seeing something nice once in a while. So until then, I'm just going to say huge thanks to Mr. Ben Rich for coming on, for doing 8,640 freaking miles on an electric motorcycle, and then being around here to talk about it.
That qualifies for an iron butt.
I did go over 525 in one day. But so I got halfway there.
525 in one day on an electric bike.
Yeah.
That's cray, dude.
Denver to Park City.
Wow. Oh, nice ride though, huh?
Oh, it's a great ride.
Yeah. I'll bet. Wow. Beautiful. Thanks to Ben. And let's see. Now I have to, because I'm doing this all by myself. Anyway, hey, as always, download us next week and find out what drives us. Okay.